Investigator Brigadier Bongani Gininda returns to the stand for cross-examination in the Senzo Meyiwa murder trial. Previously, Gininda revealed that investigations found further links of communication between the alleged mastermind of the soccer star's murder and his then-girlfriend, Kelly Khumalo. Gininda leads the team of investigators that nabbed the 5 men who are on trial. Linda Mnisi is following that story for us, and he's now joining us in studio. Linda, very good morning to you. Thank you so much for joining us in studio. Very nice having you in studio. I'm not going to share the joke that was shared off air. Yeah. Let's focus on the Senzo Meyiwa murder trial. So 2 of the accused had made an application to be removed from the CMEX prison cells that they were being held in. Only 1 accused was successful. What happened here?
So essentially what the accused are arguing is that they've been in solitary confinement, as they describe it, for far too long, longer than the prescribed time for being in segregation. And that, number 1, is in violation of their constitutional rights. But more so for accused number 3, he indicated that it's now started affecting his mental health and his ability to even give instructions and focus on the Senzo Meyiwa murder case. He detailed the hours that he's kept there and has also detailed the years that he's been there. He says he's been there since 2020. So that would make it about 4 years. And what the DCS is arguing is that this is essentially not solitary confinement. It's a single cell. It is CMEX. And if you remember quite correctly, there was a time when DCS took us to CMEX prison, and those are single cells. And one of the things that the presiding officer, the judge in that particular civil matter said was that whatever you call it, it is a bit of segregation. And that led then to that ruling that he must be then removed from CMEX. But the application of accused number 5, that's Fisoguhle Ntuli, struck off the roll. So it means he was unsuccessful in getting himself to be removed from that particular.
Okay. The trial still continues. Brigadier Bongani Gininda is back on the stand with cross-examination from the defense. What do we expect to happen?
All right, so it's continuation of that cross-examination, and so far he's touched on a few aspects, this including the alleged links between accused number 3 and Kelly Khumalo. But you'd recall that this is a cross-examination of accused number 2, Bongani Ndanzi, and a lot of it centers around the 2 confession statements that he allegedly made, but also most importantly, the issue around the identification. If you remember well, earlier, during the initial stages of the trial, there were 2 witnesses in particular, that's Tumelo Madlala as well as Zandi Khumalo, who identified accused number 2 in the dock and said this is the one that was inside the house. So we're expecting that Sipho Ramusipile, his lawyer, will deal with the identification. But quite interesting that the last sitting, he pointed out a statement that was made by one of the witnesses that has since passed, who actually gave a description of certain people that he may have seen outside the Khumalo home or during that particular time. And what would have been interesting about that statement is that the state, if it intended to hand it over, would have had to argue it. But now we're seeing it being introduced during cross-examination, or the contents of that particular description that forms part of this case. But most importantly, Eldrin, you know that there are certain witnesses, particularly those that were outside, and this witness, we're learning, is part of the people that actually assisted the police in drawing up the identity kit. So it's going to be interesting looking at perhaps some of the measurements that were done by Mangena in determining the height of Bongani Ndanzi, what this witness saw, and what the witnesses that were in the house saw to match what the state really says was Bongani Ndanzi. So we're expecting that Sipho Ramusipile will touch on that. But also remember, he said, they were coerced into making these confession statements. So those are some of the elements. And Gininda is said to have, issued one of those statements. That's the allegation from Ndanzi that he was forced to sign it. It was already compiled. So all of those things will be touched on during this cross-examination.
Yeah. And we know what as part of that identity kit was seeing a suspect with dreadlocks. which became a bone of contention at some point as well. But what's evident as well from this trial is that we are going to go into the year 2025, and it's been now 10 years since this murder has taken place. What do we expect from the defense's side in terms of their strategy to prove that the case cannot prove beyond reasonable doubt that these 5 accused are actually guilty of Senzo Meyiwa's murder?
You know, essentially, after the state is done with their case, they've got 2 options: to either file an application for a discharge, which essentially says there's no case, we don't have to take the stand and defend ourselves, because really the onus is on the state to prove beyond reasonable doubt. And in our view, we feel that they've failed in their onus to prove beyond reasonable doubt, and therefore our clients should be discharged. And the judge obviously will have to take into consideration the state's case and whether or not the accused have a case to answer to. If he rules in their favor, it's the end of the case. If he does not, then they are then bound or obliged to bring their own witnesses. And we know so far that they're interested in people like Kelly Khumalo. You know, we saw in the trial within a trial, one of the investigators of the second docket take the stand. So one wonders if then they're going to bring him back. But also, they are talking about a witness that will come and tell the court that it was in fact Longwetwala that shot Senzo Meyiwa. So we're expecting all of those witnesses to come and take the stand. Insofar as other accused, 2 to 5, we don't really know what their strategy is and who they intend calling if they get to that stage.
Okay, thank you so much. Mnisi there. He's following the Senzo Meyiwa murder trial for us.